Clearly been a very, very choppy environment in which to invest. Our view is that we won't get that Fed pause, but the other side of that, of course, is that 2023, from an economic growth perspective, looks very difficult. So we're certainly looking across all our companies, trying to find those companies that have structural drivers rather than cyclical, as our base case increasingly is that we do move into a recession as we move into 23. I think we've already seen that to some extent in things like internet advertising, for example, but there will be lots more to come, but it won't affect every company in the same way. There are some companies that really have significant structural tailwinds behind them, particularly those companies that will do well in what will unusually, particularly in Europe, be a high energy price recession. So companies that are providing solutions for energy efficiency, companies over the long term that are going to help us in that journey to net zero.
Deidre, this is your area of expertise. And if we just take a look at renewables over the course of the month so far and where we've gone, I mean, there's been a lot of different policies in the backdrop. But Europe trying to fast forward on sustainability. We've got the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States. Where do you see the opportunities now based on some of the policy actions for the sector?
I think the US has really stolen a march on Europe with the Inflation Reduction Act. It's just an exceptionally attractive piece of legislation for every part of the decarbonisation universe. So that includes, as you mentioned, renewable energy companies, where the wind and solar tax credits are very generous. They also have a much longer life than under previous versions. They have 10 years of remaining life. I mean, I think there's probably parts of the country where the solar tax credits are so generous that you need almost limited revenue for the power side. You're going to make such a good return on those tax credits. As you move into electric cars, there's really generous subsidies for the manufacturing of batteries in the US. There's an incredibly generous subsidy for green hydrogen. So that's hydrogen that's made from renewable energy rather than from natural gas. Interesting to see this morning the CEO of Johnson Matthey talk about how Europe was in the UK were lagging behind on hydrogen. I think he's 100% right. And the same is true for other energy efficiency sectors. So while Europe responded really quickly, obviously post the Russian invasion of Ukraine with REPowerEU and Fit for 55, following through on that has just been a little bit slower. And things like planning and permitting are always huge issues in Europe, and the US has marched ahead. And I think what's important to note is that this not only sets the US on a better path to net zero, but allows the US to give visibility to companies that want to invest in manufacturing, that they will have low priced, highly visible, not volatile, depending on moving the moves in fossil fuel prices, energy. And that means that we're seeing more and more companies, think about where they relocate
Deidre,
their manufacturing, depending on those energy prices.